Ever wonder what the secret to a genuinely happy, blessed marriage really is? Well, today, we're going to dive into the Islamic perspective on exactly that. We'll look at its divine purpose and some of the modern challenges that, according to our source material, kind of threaten to overshadow its core blessings. Okay, let's get right into it.
So pretty much everything we're going to talk about is rooted right here, in this single verse from the Quran. The source presents this as the divine blueprint for marriage. And notice the language. It's not just a contract. It's a sign from God, a sacred bond built on three key pillars: tranquility, affection, and mercy. We're about to break each of those down.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with the divine purpose of marriage. Then we'll get into the modern crisis of crazy high costs. After that, we'll look at the two paths you can take when choosing a partner, find out the way to a blessed union, and finally, explore the ripple effects all of this has on society.
So, what's the whole point? What are the main spiritual goals of marriage? Well, like we just saw, it all comes back to those three powerful words from that opening verse: tranquility, affection, and mercy. Let's dig into what each of those really means.
First up is sukoon, or tranquility. And this isn't just about, not fighting. It's way deeper. It's this profound state of peace and security that you're supposed to find in each other. Think of it like your own personal safe harbor, a place you can go to get away from all the noise and chaos of the world.
The second one is mawadda, which is this really unique, deep-seated affection. The source explains that this is a special kind of love God Himself puts between a husband and wife. It's what turns two separate people into the closest possible companions. So this isn't just any old love. It's seen as a divine gift, a little spark of something sacred placed right in their hearts.
And that third pillar is rahma, or mercy. This is the active stuff. It's the compassion and forgiveness a couple shows each other. The source describes it as a reflection of God's own mercy just played out in a human relationship. It's the kind of mercy that helps you forgive their mistakes, be patient with their flaws, and just be there for them, no matter what.
Okay, so that ideal sounds beautiful, right? Tranquility, affection, mercy. But what happens when reality hits? The source points to a huge crisis in modern marriage, the absolutely crushing weight of financial expectations.
I mean, we've all seen this, haven't we? This pressure to have the perfect wedding, the perfect home, the perfect everything, all for show. But what's the real cost? The argument here is that marriage, something that's supposed to bring you tranquility, has become one of the biggest sources of anxiety. This pressure for fancy weddings and stuff often forces couples to start their lives buried in debt. Now here's a really fascinating take from the source. It says that an outrageously high dowry isn't a sign of honor, it's a sign of misfortune. And why? Because that huge debt can poison the very tranquility and mercy the marriage is supposed to be built on. Kind of ironic, isn't it? The one thing that's supposed to be a symbol of commitment ends up being a source of stress from day one.
So where does this whole crisis even come from? Well, the source traces it back to a clash of priorities when it comes time to actually choose a life partner. It's like we're standing at a fork in the road, with two very different paths ahead.
And this lays out the tension perfectly. On one side, you have all the shiny, worldly stuff: money, family status, looks. On the other side, you have the quiet strength of the divine criteria, their religious commitment, or deen, and just as important, their actual moral character, their khuluq. The source argues that the path you choose right here, well, that determines everything that follows.
Okay, so let's say you're looking for a life partner. What's on your checklist? The source brings up this well-known prophetic teaching that says people usually get married for one of four reasons: for wealth, for family name, for beauty, or for religious commitment. But this isn't a list of equally good options. It's more of an observation of what people do, and it sets up some really crucial advice.
Here's the punchline. The command at the end is to triumph with the one who is religious. Now, that last part, may your hands be rubbed with dust. The source explains this as a really strong Arabic idiom. It's a stark warning. It's like saying, if you choose for any other reason, you risk ending up with nothing, with dust. So this choice has massive consequences.
And hey, this isn't just on the individual. The source frames this as a community responsibility. It highlights the advice given to a woman's family. If a man with good character and faith proposes, you should accept him. And the warning for saying no just because he isn't rich or doesn't have the right last name is severe. It says doing that can lead to huge problems and corruption in society.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem. How do we fix it? How do we get back to that ideal? Well, the source doesn't just leave us hanging.
It lays out a really clear path to a blessed marriage, and it all revolves around simplicity and trust in God.
So here's the 4-step plan. Number 1, put faith and character above everything else. Number 2, keep the dowry simple and easy. 3, actively avoid that whole culture of competition and one-upmanship. And 4, trust in God's promise that He'll provide. You can even think of it as a little mantra. Prioritize, simplify, avoid, and trust.
This statement right here directly connects blessings, or barakah, with making things easy. The source argues that an easy dowry is like good soil for that divine blessing, that barakah, to grow. And you can kind of see this in real life, can't you? The happiest couples aren't always the ones who had the biggest weddings, but the ones who started out with simplicity and trust.
And to prove this isn't just some abstract theory, the source gives these powerful historical examples. I mean, can you imagine? One guy's dowry was just to teach his wife the parts of the Quran he knew by heart. In another famous story, a woman's only request for her dowry was that the man accept Islam. That's it. These examples really show you that the best treasures aren't things money can buy.
So, what if you're worried about money? The message here is, don't be. The source points to this verse to argue that you shouldn't put off marriage just because you're poor. In fact, it's presented as a way that God Himself provides for you and opens doors to prosperity as long as you have the right intention. It's about trusting in that promise.
Now, these choices don't just affect the couple. They have a ripple effect that touches the entire community. So for our last section, we're going to zoom out. The source argues that when we make marriage difficult, the negative effects spread out and harm society as a whole.
And this table basically sums it up. It's a nasty cycle. Extravagance and waste. The source links that with something pretty serious. You create all these barriers to lawful marriage, well, that leads to an increase in forbidden relationships. And all that competition just fuels strife and corruption. It's a real domino effect.
But after all that doom and gloom, the source ends with an incredibly powerful bit of encouragement. It mentions a teaching that says there are 3 people God has guaranteed He will help. And on that very short list is the one who marries seeking chastity. I mean, think about that. That's a divine guarantee of support for anyone who pursues marriage the right way for the right reasons. If you're looking for a sign to move forward, this is a pretty big one.
And that brings us to our last question for you to think about. We've talked about the financial price tag of modern weddings, but the source argues the true price is much, much higher. It suggests we pay with our peace of mind, with our community's health, and with those divine blessings of tranquility, affection, and mercy that are supposed to be the whole point. So I'll leave you with this. What's the real price of complicating this sacred bond, and what are we willing to let go of to get back to what truly matters?